Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening. It's time!
This is Lights Out. I am Faisal Khan, and welcome to the Lights Out MMA Podcast, proudly in association with the one and only Kimura Sports. Javid, how you doing, brother?
All good, my brother. All good.
It's a bit different, isn't it? We're used to Zoom calling, online calling, but face-to-face together for the first time doing a podcast. How you feeling, bro?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm thinking maybe we should do some tutorials as well, some demonstrations of takedowns and like maybe do some pads work as well.
As long as I'm the one that's doing the takedowns, bro, and as long as you're not doing these takedowns on me, bro.
Come on, bro. We got to show the leg kicks, how it's going to flow, everything.
I've never fancied myself as much as a fighter. I think I'll stick to the media side of combat sports. But as we said, it is the 7th MMA podcast. Nice. We're going to be doing a preview for UFC 263, which takes place this Saturday night, June the 12th, in Glendale, Arizona. It's a brilliant card. You've got 2 world title fights. Of course, you've got the return of Nate Diaz as well against England's very own Leon Edwards. Obviously, before we do talk about the show itself, let's remind the viewers out there, if they haven't already, to please hit the subscribe button. That's if they're watching on YouTube, and if they're listening to us on any of the audio platforms such as Spotify or iTunes, make sure you hit that follow button. And most importantly, for the best MMA, boxing equipment, the best gear around in the business, Kimura Sports, links are in the description below. Check out their official website, give them a follow on Instagram. Business has been booming by the looks of it, bro. Sold out quite a few equipment as of lately.
Yeah. Like, it's not only equipment, but it's also clothing as well. The clothing, we didn't keep it limited, but we've been trying to like meet demand as much as we can. But every single time we stock something, it goes out of stock. So we've been restocking our clothing as well. But we just recently sold out of all of our KS print hand wraps, which was quite nice because, with these hand wraps, it's not just normal hand wraps. We've actually spent time like trying to innovate and trying to provide customers with something that's different. And like when you look at ours, it's completely different to what's out there in the market. And that's because we've actually taken the time to look at what's out there and what people actually really want. So it's good to see people are realizing that, and like because of that, it's doing quite well. So yeah, quite happy with that.
It's good to see businesses doing well. You've got it going for you. Following is going up on social media. You're selling quite a bit of equipment as well. All you need now is a bit of Dana White privilege.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, anyway, big show to talk about. UFC 263, 2 rematches for 2 world titles, and of course, as we said, the return of Nate Diaz. We have to start off with the main event itself. Go back to the first ever podcast when we said who's our breakout fighter of the year. I said Israel Adesanya. I can't remember who you said. And then unfortunately, he come up a bit short against Jan Blachowicz as he tried going up to
but credit for him for doing that, man. Like,
exactly.
It's not an easy feat to do it, to be honest. Like, to go up to a weight division like you're not made for. Let's be honest. Like, his frame, his build, and the weight that he carries around, he's not made for it. So I think a lot of respect has to be given to him for doing that.
One thing that obviously we have to mention, it is a second fight with Marvin Vettori. I don't know how fans felt about that. Me personally, I think it was the right fight to go back into after the defeat to Blachowicz. But, we talk about key points leading up to the fight. Does the defeat to Jan Blachowicz put a lot of more pressure on Adesanya to not only look good, but also to make sure he wins on Saturday night?
I think it might be the opposite. What if it takes off the pressure? Now that his O is gone, he doesn't have to like hold that up. He doesn't have to like, go out there and do something special or keep it like amazing. He can kind of like fall back a bit and just get back on the winning side again. So maybe it will ease a bit of pressure off of him now that like maybe his O's gone. He doesn't have to doesn't have that mindset of I have to stay undefeated. I have to always stay best. But this is the thing with Israel. I think doesn't really get mentioned much, but it's like his mental strength. Like he's always like being himself. He's always been confident. Any interviews you watch with him, his training, he's always confident in himself and his abilities. And that's why he was able to go up and do things such as go up to like heavyweight and like fight against someone who you wouldn't really expect him to fight against and do things like that. So I think maybe there might be a little bit of pressure from it, but I don't think it'll play in any part in his strategy or into the fight night as well. So I reckon he'll be good to go, man.
Well, we don't have to disagree there. You don't want to suffer 2 defeats in a row. You know, you don't want to go from making that big leap up to light heavyweight. And obviously, I don't think he did too bad against Blachowicz. I just think he was in there with a much bigger guy.
There's a reason why we have weight divisions.
Exactly, man. And I just think maybe that jump came a bit too soon. I've always felt that if you're going to jump up to a new weight, it's best to test yourself with a lesser opponent rather than, you know, the daddy of the division. Because let's be honest with each other, that's what Blachowicz is. He is the daddy of the light heavyweight division. But as for Marvin Vettori, and obviously this question relates to Adesanya, what's different about both fighters going into this fight than the one we saw 3 years ago?
Vettori has actually improved quite a bit, I would say. Like you've seen in his previous fights. The thing with Vettori is like he's not everyone's cup of tea. He is a wrestler, and I wouldn't say a decision fighter, but he gets the win. He does what he needs to do on the fight night, and you've seen increase in his like game as well. Like he's becoming better. Like his wrestling has improved quite a lot as well. Like his jiu-jitsu has increased as well. So even though Vettori has kind of not been in the limelight as Israel, but like Vettori has been making those changes. The only one thing that I would like to see from Vettori is getting those finishes. Whether that's standing on the feet or I think better submissions. I think he's only got 3 submission wins in his like entire UFC career. Now, considering he's more of a dominant wrestler, I think he should go more for these submissions as well. That way he becomes more of a threat, a bit more entertaining to watch as well. And it just adds to his skill as well. It just complements his wrestling. Now, with that said, Israel has been, I don't know, kind of been in his own league, trying to like show himself that like he's different from the rest. And like he's been doing that by going to the light heavyweight division and like still trying to challenge himself. See, this is the thing with Israel. He's a prize fighter. He's used to these tournaments. So these tournaments where you fight 4 people in one night for just like a prize money. So that was a challenge in itself. Then he comes to UFC and he's like fighting the best against the best, always constantly. So he's always looking for a challenge, and because of that, he's always improving. Some of it might be small and you won't be able to notice it that much, but you can see like changes in his timing and a few of his like techniques as well. Like for example, the calf kicks that was thrown against Paulo Costa as well. He didn't really throw much of those, but when it came to fight Paulo Costa, that's when he started implementing that a lot more. So he's a type of fighter that builds new skills or brings something new to each fight, and he does something different because he's the type of fighter that likes a new challenge all the time. He's an actual warrior. He's actual like a real fighter.
Yeah, listen, I agree with you. You know, Vettori has come on leaps and bounds. Going back to obviously their first fight 3 years ago, I think he'll obviously come in a lot more prepared this time around. I think he might even take a few notes from the defeat to Blachowicz when obviously his last fight. I know obviously Blachowicz and Vettori are 2 different people and definitely a lot different in size, but I think, you know, taking a few notes from that fight going into this fight. However, I just think, as we mentioned, Adesanya, you know, when we speak about him, you said the guy likes a challenge. We're not talking about a new challenge. We're talking about someone he's faced and beaten in the past. Hunger and desire, how much do you think he's up for this fight? Or do you think he is 100% fully focused? Because we've seen it before. Lots of complacency. I actually thought Conor McGregor looked a bit complacent going into that second fight with Dustin Poirier. Look what happened. But can you see Adesanya slipping up on Saturday night?
Nah. He's just... his game plan and like his, I don't know what's the word, like his skills in the ring is just too high to be making those kind of like schoolboy errors. Do you know what it is? It's his ring IQ. When you have that level of ring IQ, you won't let yourself like slip up when you come to the fight night. He's going to take all those measures that he needs to make sure when it comes to the fight night, he's there, he's ready. But the thing is though, when you beat someone, there'll come a part where like maybe you're not as disciplined or maybe you're not training as hard because like in the back of your head you're always thinking, okay, I've already beat this guy, like, you know, maybe you don't train as hard or maybe you do like slightly underlook them. But it's kind of hard to say that with someone like Israel Adesanya. I don't think he'll make that mistake.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to think that he doesn't live that type of life where he looks at a fight and think, yeah, it's an easy fix. I do think with Adesanya, you've got a guy that wants to create a legacy in the sport. I honestly do believe that if he can put up a good performance and he can get the win on Saturday night, maybe 1-2 more fights and he might fancy having another crack at, light heavyweight, but I do think you've got someone that lives and breathes the sport.
Yeah,
I think he's gone about it the right way. You know, he's got a background in kickboxing and boxing as well.
Yeah.
You know, the guy's been in combat
He's
sports.
lethal.
He's very lethal. And you know,
He mixes up really well.
For me, he's someone that the younger generation should look up to as well. You know, he's
into anime. That's what.
Well, he's a humble guy. He's a very humble guy. But as for Marvin Vettori, obviously, you know, you've been in. He's had this fight once.
Yeah.
If you're in Marvin Vettori's corner on Saturday night, what game plan? What do you go in? What do you do differently this time?
You're Marvin Vettori. Of course, you've watched the Jan Blachowicz fight. Mm-hmm. You've studied that fight as well. That's going to give you a bit of confidence. When you see someone like Israel Adesanya being able to take him down, now we have to consider the fact that Jan Blachowicz was like heavier and stuff, and like, you know, fighting now his weight. But the fact that Jan Blachowicz was able to take down Israel Adesanya and keep him down there without too much of a struggle from Israel, is going to give Marvin Vettori a bit of confidence. He's going to go back and he's going to think, I can do that as well. And he's going to train even harder. And like, to be honest, he has got a very good wrestling game. He's a bit of a brute. Like, he's very, very strong. He's not technically the best or like, you know, amazing, but he does have that kind of physical strength that Jan Blachowicz actually has as well. So I reckon he's going to use that, not only because he has the confidence now of seeing what Jan Blachowicz done, but he's got the kind of physical attributes of it to do it as well.
I mean, sorry, just to disturb you there. He's good. Sorry to disturb you there, Javi. 17 wins, 2 wins by knockout, 9 by submission, and 9 by submission, 6 by decision.
Okay.
I mean, it took 21 opponents to try and do it, and Blachowicz did it in the end. He defeated Adesanya, but I still believe that the leap up to light heavyweight and the weight played its part in the defeat. But how do you beat Adesanya on Saturday night if you're in the corner of Marvin Vettori?
See, Israel Adesanya is such a skillful fighter, very, very high ring IQ, as in like, you just take one part of it and you break it down, and you can break it down in so many parts. For example, like his footwork and like his placement. He's always in a reach or in a distance where he can tag you, but you won't be able to hit him because A, he's too quick and he'll move out the way, or because of his reach and he's like able to keep out a distance. So if I'm someone like Marvin Vettori, you would have to take a few punches and you have to get in there. When he's sidestepping to his left after you throw your couple, you have to just go for the single leg, or you have to cut him off and try to close the distance. Now, doing that, no one's really been able to do that with Israel Adesanya. Cut the cage off and close the distance without getting knocked out or getting hit really badly. It is quite a bit of an impossible feat, but if he's able to do that, if he's able to close the distance and get a hand on him or get him against the cage, he has a good chance of taking him down and holding him down there and like kind of grinding his way to a decision win, which I think is his best option, really, to be honest. Because I don't see him winning on the feet. Israel Adesanya's got too much of a good stand-up game. He's just too slick with it and too fast as well. So I don't see him winning on the feet at all. He has to get to the ground.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, you know, could you take that approach that Blachowicz did, keeping him against the cage, you know, not giving him enough time to sort of get into sort of a rhythm as well? I think Adesanya, as I said, he doesn't seem like a complacent guy to me. You know, he'd be 10 times more hungry after that defeat to Jan Blachowicz. I think it's a comfortable win on Saturday night. I can't see anything other than a comfortable win for Adesanya, but obviously this is where, you know, what we're in the game for. Predictions, reviews. What happens on Saturday night for the middleweight title? Who do you see winning this one?
I'll have to say Israel Adesanya by a knockout, or by knockout.
Are we going to be eating humble pie on Saturday night?
That's what I'm laughing about. I was just about to drop out. I said Victoria by submission.
No. I mean, a few weeks ago, I said to you that Michael Chandler's going to be at Oliveira. Look what happened. I said to you, Conor McGregor will stop Dustin Poirier. Look, my predictions in this UFC game are not as good as they are in boxing. But so you're going with an Adesanya win on Saturday?
Yeah, Adesanya win.
Okay.
By a knockout.
By knockout. What round?
4.
All right, so if he does him in 4 rounds, treats on me, yeah?
Okay. All right, calm.
Anyway, moving on, because obviously that's the first of 2 world title fights we've got to look forward to on Saturday night. We've got another rematch, Deiveson Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno. Dana White, man, hats off to him. The guy does not settle for draws. He does not settle for, question marks hanging over previous fights. I'm glad he's made this fight and he's made it straight away. He's not waiting around or anything because the first fight was a brilliant fight.
This one is for the fans, I'd say.
100%. Potential fight of the night for me. Thoughts on the first fight, though, going back to UFC 256?
I absolutely loved it. Man, this is the main reason why I love MMA so much, is that war. Do you know when you actually get two fighters coming in and actually just going guns blazing and just having an actual war in the cage? There's nothing else like it, man. Like, you see them head kicks, you see the grappling, you see everything is on display and to a high level as well. And you see the high cardio as well. They just kept on going, bro. This was such a beautiful fight to watch, man. Really entertaining. The first one, it was really good, I'll say. I think the key difference, though, in the first one is Figueiredo. He had a higher skill set. He was just that little bit smarter, that little bit faster on his feet. And I think that is the reason why he managed to get the win as well. And it showed, I think he was a bit more disciplined. He's been in a few more high profile fights as well. So I think that played a part as well. Experience.
I think the beauty in combat sports is we don't always have to agree with the judge's decision and the end result. But do you think a draw was a fair result, or do you think it should have gone towards Figueiredo or even Moreno?
See, it's a bit of a difficult one. Like, I personally felt like Figueiredo won that. Like, maybe just by one round. But there was a few rounds where it was very difficult to score. So I can see why the judges gave it a draw. Maybe they just didn't want to. It was just too hard of a fight to call. Like, who won each round and stuff. So yeah, I could understand the draw. I can live with the draw. But personally, I think Figueiredo won that.
You know what I learned from that fight, right? It was a close fight. Can we agree with that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Figueiredo had a point deducted as well. It ended as a draw. That makes me think, Brandon Moreno, what the fuck do you have to do to win?
Yeah.
Because a very close fight, Figueiredo gets deducted a point. Fight could have gone either way. I think if you take all those things into perspective before you deliver the end result, you're probably thinking, well, it's close, point deduction for the defending champion, could have gone either way. You probably would favour Moreno to win that fight.
Yeah.
So I think, as well, going into the second fight, Figueiredo has to be spot on. You can't afford no more silliness. I mean, the low blow leading up to that point deduction was just... It's schoolboy errors. You don't be doing it. Not on this level as well. Obviously, this will be with fans in attendance as well. So the first fight wasn't. That plays a massive. I mean, that's a fight. You want fans in attendance for that first fight. But hopefully, as you said, this second fight. Well, I personally think it does steal fight of the night. And obviously, there's more good fights as well to talk about it. Do you still do the same if you're Moreno going into his second fight? Is it the same game plan? Because regardless of what you think, I know you had Figueiredo winning the fight in the end. But me personally, those head kicks and that will to just keep on coming forward, and he did take a lot of punishment as well, same as Figueiredo. What does he do different in this fight?
I personally felt like in the exchanges, Moreno was getting the worst of it. I feel like Figueiredo was getting the better of him in the exchanges.
Figueiredo in terms of strikes was the better fighter for me.
Yeah. And like, if I'm Moreno, you got to be smart in those exchanges, man. You just, as much as I love it, I love the aggression. I love that. Just keep on pushing forward and just bulldozing your way kind of through it. But it's not a smart way to win the fight, especially when you're fighting someone who's a little bit more technical and a little bit more experienced than you in the exchanges. So what I would like to see from him is just pulling back a bit and then just waiting for the right shot to come through as well. Because that's exactly what Figueiredo was doing, and that's why he was winning those exchanges. So that's what I would also like to see with Moreno as well. It does have the potential of making the fight a little bit more boring and a little bit more stalemate as well. But I think that way, Moreno has a much better chance of edging himself forward and winning those exchanges as well, and winning it in terms of the judges' eyes if it does go to decision.
10 of his 18 wins, Brandon Moreno, have come by submission. Do you expect to see more holding, more grappling, more takedowns this time from Moreno, especially going into the second fight? Because that is basically his arsenal. That is basically his number one weapon.
Figueiredo does have very good jiu-jitsu as well. I don't see a submission happening, but he is able to take him down, and he is going to be able to hold him down there. I would love to see that. I would love to see more of his jiu-jitsu as well, and I love to see the scrambles, because they have some really good scrambles in there. You just saw it going back and forth as well. So I would like to see more of that. And to be honest, if I was him, that was what was working for him. So yeah, I guess he could implement more grappling, more hold him against the cage. But then I guess that would kind of backfires on what I just said. Like maybe you should bulldoze your way through, push him against the cage, and then just once you got him there, pull him down, get a hold of him, drain him as well.
Reasons to be excited, man. This is another brilliant fight. You know, the cards that they're putting on at the moment in the MMA is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the Poirier McGregor show is going to be a brilliant show as well. The Oliveira and Chandler was a good show as well.
Let's not forget the last show.
Exactly.
That was a hell of a show as well. With
100%.
Chris Weidman broke his leg.
Exactly.
The knockout of Masvidal as well.
Yeah.
Oh my days.
Unbelievable. You know, you got to give credit to the man. Dana White upstairs, because he's doing a phenomenal job. But this is a rematch. Anything can happen. You know, don't write out Brandon Moreno. For prediction time, I think, and still, I think Figueiredo wins, but I think he wins on points. Yeah. What are you going for?
Same here as well. Figueiredo on points as well.
Points. You don't
but I'm 50-50 on this one. I do see there's a chance of Moreno getting a submission. I know I just said Figueiredo is very good.
There's no harm in saying that. 10 of his 18 wins are by submission.
Yeah, he's got very good submission, and the way he is on the ground, it's like he's kind of the type that when he's very sticky. That's what I like to use is the word sticky. You know, there's certain fighters that you just can't push your way through. Like any kind of movement you make, they're kind of 2 steps ahead of you as well, and they already know what kind of move to make, and they're just always on you and holding you down. That does tire you out. We saw Figueiredo does have a very good gas tank, but then if Moreno is able to implement that more and pressure him more, we can see Figueiredo kind of getting a bit more tired, and then potentially letting himself be open to submission. So I think there is a chance. I'll say I'm 50-50 at the moment with this one, of a decision by Figueiredo or submission by Moreno.
It's a tough one, isn't it? I'm going to go with Figueiredo by points. I think the first fight he took a bit lightly. I might get a bit of stick for saying that. I think second time I think he's more up for it. They're more knowledgeable of what Moreno brings to the octagon. I think he's going to be bang up for it. He's got to be, because, you know, he got a draw and he got a point deducted as well. So, you know, there's no such thing as a third chance. So he needs to be bang up for it on Saturday night. Great fight, though. I
like the personalities as well. Yeah. They're both quite different. You know, Figueiredo, he's more of he's quite aggressive and very confident in himself, and he's out there to prove something, to prove to himself.
Being 33 years old, Figueiredo, you know, it's his third title defense. If you can get past Moreno on Saturday night, what's the ambition? What are you looking to do next?
I'll move up in weight. I would love to see him move up in weight and take on bigger challenges as well. Saying that though, at his division there is a lot of fighters there. There is a lot of high caliber fighters. This is why I like the lower divisions in the UFC or in MMA in general. It always tends to be quite stacked. So there is always some very good fights at his weight category as well. But there's always a chance for him to move up and become the double champ, as they like to say as well. So
yeah, well, look. Honestly, it's a very good fight on Saturday night. You know, so not one of the fights that you want to think to yourself, "Yeah, I'll just fall asleep and wait for
this whole card." I don't think I would want to miss any of the fights.
100%, no way. So this is part 2 of the Lights Out MMA podcast, bringing you our preview of UFC 263, and also I'm delighted to be joined by legendary Stitchman Jacob Stitch Duran. Jacob, first of all, how have you been?
I've been good, thank you. It's been, it's been a fun ride with this pandemic that kicked in. But I've done, I think 37 shows since June. A year ago. So they've all been in the bubble. Now we're starting to get out. I just did the Mayweather Logan Paul show. I work with Badu Jack as the semi-main event, and I got a show this weekend. Then I go back to Florida the week after for the Triller show. Snoop Dogg and these guys. So yeah, I've been blessed.
Well, it's good to see that you've been keeping busy, and you're getting to bump into the likes of Snoop Dogg and Jake Paul and Floyd Mayweather. Sky's the limit, I suppose, eh?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's unbelievable ride, I'm telling you, and I'm having fun every moment of it.
Good to hear. Now, obviously, as I mentioned, UFC 263 takes place this Saturday night. It's an amazing card that Dana White has put on. But also on the MMA scene, Claressa Shields, a woman that you've worked with quite closely during her boxing career, makes her MMA debut. Now, obviously, she's not featuring on UFC 263, but she is scheduled to make her MMA debut. Now, Claressa Shields, for those of you who don't know, is a multiple weight world champion, and she's also former undisputed champion. Stitch, you worked with her. As a boxer, what was it like working with a lady like Claressa Shields?
No, it was a blessing, just to help anybody in their career, especially someone that's, is a two-time gold medalist, Olympic gold medalist, and right now, the top woman boxer. But I helped her in her pro debut, which is always kind of nice. It's a memory that she'll have and I'll have. And I wrapped her hands. She went out there and I got to see her fight, and she just dominated her opponent. So, she is definitely the best that there is right now.
At what point did you realize during your time with her that she could go on to be a phenomenal superstar that she's become?
Well, I think even before they even signed her, before I even worked with her, just knowing that her pedigree, and the way she fights, and so I knew, she had to fall up on top. It was the progression that goes with what she has accomplished, and that's to be the best fighter out there. So yeah, she could fight, no doubt about it.
Well, 100%. I mean, former multiple weight world champion and, of course, a former undisputed champion. She must have been doing something right. Now, what's your thoughts on her crossing over to the MMA?
Well, it's funny you say that, because I'm working all these YouTube sensation shows. I worked KSI when he fought Logan Paul, and worked with Anson Gibb when he fought Jake Paul. And, I was at the Tyson Roy Jones fights, and, Mayweather, and then I got the Triller coming. So I can see, the game is changing now to the point where if you cross over into something else, you'll probably end up making more money than if you just stay in your career. Claressa Shields coming into the MMA industry, it's a little bit different. I worked the fight with Randy Couture when he fought James Lights Out Tony, which was a world champion, multiple world champion in boxing. And Randy just took him apart, because the skill level of the ground game is so much better than what James Tony had prepared for. And I think Claressa Shields, on the stand-up, she'll be fine. But, I'm sure the girl that she's fighting will take her down right off the bat. And how she performs is going to be, dependent on how much that 1 year when she was training. So interesting. It's a win-win situation for her on the marketing side. She had the heart and soul to go into a different field and challenge that field, and then go back into boxing. So I wish her well.
You do a lot of work behind the scenes in terms of preparation, making sure the fighter's in the right frame of mind, and of course with the stitch job and hand wraps and stuff like that. But you also know what it's like for a fighter to be in camp. You've been in both sides of the business, boxing and MMA. Just how difficult is it not only to prepare a fighter for a boxing match, but also difficult to prepare a fighter for an MMA match?
Well, I would venture to think that the injury levels are the things you got to concern with. Years ago, I put a documentary together called Boxer's Nightmare, and I sent a bunch of resumes out, and, majority of the fighters that fight injured one way or the other, whether it's a joint, whether it's a knuckle, whether it's this and that, they do, because the training aspect is a very, very hard process. And so, yeah, you are going to have some kind of injuries, but just to go out there and to learn a trait and change your whole body structure, Claressa going into training, I'm sure the first month, 2 months, she just stayed sore, because now you're dealing with joints and, locks, and you're getting slammed on the ground, and, things that boxers just aren't accustomed to. So, I'm sure she's gone through all those processes.
Just how far do you think Claressa Shields can go in the MMA business?
Well, it all depends on how she performs here. That says everything. And I just, actually, I don't even know who she's fighting, but I'm sure it's somebody that can fight. But the experience level is different. And I think that's going to be the defining factor in this fight. And if she performs well and she wants to stay into it, then more power to her. Then she could do both sports. And I think this she fighting on Bellator card.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I believe it's the Bellator card.
Yeah, so Scott Coker's cool enough to say, hey, if you want to fight Bellator and continue boxing, do them both. So like I say, it's on a marketing aspect, it's a win-win situation for her.
Making his comeback in UFC 263 is UFC star Nate Diaz. You know Nate Diaz quite personally yourself. Just talk to me about the experiences you've had with Nate Diaz in the past.
It's tremendous. We always brag. They always brag they're from the 209, the area code, right? Well, I'm from the same 209. So I've known him for a lot of years, and every time Nick and Nate fought, I'm the guy that always wrapped their hands and work their corners, and so we got a friendship relationship, no doubt about it. But tough kids, man. Both of them are just tough, and I'm just I'm proud of Nate and Nick to have seen what they have accomplished. Nate being the young one, because it was always Nick from the get-go, right? And I remember Nate coming in on the tough shows, and he was the young one that had to get his claim of fame because Nate already had it. And well, he did, and then I think he surpassed Nate when it came to economics, fighting Conor McGregor and doing all this and just marketing himself. Tremendous guys, man. I love these guys, so I can't say anything bad about them.
Nate Diaz, as I mentioned, returns to the octagon for the first time since November 2019, and obviously he takes on Leon Edwards, who has a very good reputation in the UFC, and he's probably one of Britain's best hopes in winning a world title in the UFC business. Now, first of all, when you heard the news that Nate was making his comeback to the UFC, what was your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I've heard Leon Edwards' name. I really don't know his style and all that, but I know if his name is out there, that's because he's winning, right? And Nate coming in, you say, I think was 2019 was the last time he fought. I just did a fight last week, and Devin Haney, who's a world champion, he fought Jorge Linares, which is a veteran boxer, former world champion, but the veteran fighter. So you had the young lion and Devin and you had Jorge Linares, which is the veteran, still not out of the contentions, but the veteran with more age. Well, Nick and Nate and is in that same position. He's the lion, the veteran lion, going against the young lion, I would think, because Leon Edwards was not there when I was in the UFC, and so that's a new. So it lets me to believe that he's younger than Nate, and so I think in anything you could beat anything, but you can't beat time. Mm-hmm. And I just I hope things work out for him, and skill level and all that. I don't question none of that he's definitely supported. But if there's going to be a balance point that's going to lift it one or the other, it's going to be the age factor, and then the absence of being active.
With Nate coming back into the sport, taking on the fighters such as Leon Edwards, who's the younger, the fresher, and more active fighter, do you think this shows a huge ton of heart from Nate, or do you think it shows the fact that, given however long he's taken out of the octagon, he just wants to fight the best out there, and because it's in his DNA, he feels that the best will only give him the challenge that he needs?
Yeah, well, you said it right there, and that's actually that. Is he's a gangster, he's a warrior, not gangster in the bad side, but it's just tough, and he'll challenge anybody. But like say, there's that little balance point that's going to tip one way or the other, and what's the advantage of one over the other, and when I look at fights, I look at fights as a neutral, and on numbers, and I think when it comes to the numbers, Leon has the edge on just the age factor.
As you mentioned about time, it's not everybody's best friend. I believe Nate Diaz now is 36 years of age. He's been at the octagon since November 2019. Do you think he still has what it takes to not only compete against the likes of the Leon Edwards, but Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington, fighters in that division, the best fighters in that division? Do you think Nate Diaz can still challenge and compete at the high level?
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. Whether it's to his advantage or not is a different thing. Then, his caliber will keep him at that level. whether he comes out as a victor all the time, that's a different story, So, but yeah, I mean, definitely, he's never going to lose that heart of the warrior. It's going to make him that contender, that challenger, And but like I say, and I've seen it many, many, many times. Is like I say, you can beat time, but anything that you can't beat. So.
One final question before we let you go. UFC is doing very well these days. It's delivering some action-packed cards. Boxing's not doing too bad either. Which is the number one sport for you right now? UFC or boxing?
Well, I haven't followed UFC in such a long time. A lot of since I left, I think I've been gone 6-7 years. And all the guys that I work with, very few of them still remain. Nate Diaz, one of them. So that whole new list of people have changed, the changing of the guard, the new generation. So I really haven't been following it, but I've been doing a lot of boxing. I'm doing the bare knuckle fights, which to me is the hot sport now, and so I've been working those. I'm doing, like say, these YouTuber events. So yeah, boxing is doing fine. Or let me add about about Nate Diaz. I think Nate would be great to fight a Jake Paul or Logan Paul. That's right up his alley. And the reason I say that, because he has sparred with Andre Ward, and I used to work with Andre Ward, which is, the undefeated, gold medalist, but undefeated middleweight champ, light heavyweight champ. And so they could fight. He could box. He could challenge him. That would be my guy to put up against Jake Paul or Logan Paul. He belongs in that category because of his personality that he has created. So, best to
well, Logan Paul, went the distance with Floyd Mayweather, and Jake Paul has a date with destiny against Tyron Woodley. So I think we have to give Logan a few weeks to sort of get over the Floyd Mayweather experience, and let's see how Jake Paul gets on with Tyron Woodley. But, Nate Diaz versus one of the Paul brothers, I think a lot of people would like to see that. But Stitch, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate you coming on. And once again, a massive privilege and a massive pleasure having you on here. And thank you for talking to us for our MMA podcast.
That was my pleasure. But they could fight KSI. So anyway.
You know what? I think the promoters such as Dana White and Eddie Hearn need to get on the phone to you to do a bit of matchmaking for them.
That'd be fun. Yeah, I know. All right, man. Thanks.
Thank you very much for your time, Stitch. Much appreciated.
All right, cheers. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.